Okay, I'm here today with none other than Rakesh Bandipelli in we're going to call this our studio now, mate?
Jungle room.
The jungle room?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it anyway. We'll keep doing it here.
Yeah.
Today we're talking about side gigs and moving from a full-time role, maybe a corporate role, into something that maybe you're a bit more passionate about and something that's entirely you. And that's a big step, Rakesh. You want to tell us a little bit about where you come from, just briefly, and where you're moving to now?
Yeah, so hello again, great to be here again. So yeah, it is an important aspect of everyone's life, I guess, because we spend a lot of time in job or whatever we want to do in life. But then you also have things that you're passionate about and you want to do some change and impact in as well. Mm-hmm. So my background is all supply chain for the last 15 years or so, and obviously have a keen passion for technology. Mm-hmm. But I also have a lot of ideas and concerns about our future generations and the way everything's going forward, mm-hmm. in terms of climate and everything else.
Okay, so this was all happening while you had your full-time job?
Yeah, yep. This was completely full-time job, mm-hmm. and then we go to work and we all talk about climate. Weather is horrible today, whatever we do, and then I'm like connecting the dots, thinking, why the weather is not great? Because there is a lot of damage that is happening. Why is that? Because of the material consumption and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So these are all the ideas that I sort of went along the journey while I was working full time. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, why can't I do something about it? Maybe I should do something about it. Mm-hmm. And then that sparked the idea about your product passport.
Be the change you want to see in the world, huh?
That's it. it. So I transitioned from being full time and had set up a little bit of an ecosystem around the supply chain consulting, mm-hmm. while parallelly actively working full time on this startup. Mm-hmm. So I don't have any challenges to go full on with what I want to do. Yep. So yeah, that's a bit of a transition over.
So you went part time at what was your full time role?
Yep.
You went into your passion project, which is YPP and circular economy.
Yep.
The making of the circular economy guy, right?
Yeah.
And you had the software development company as a bit of a more regular income. Something was a little bit more certain. Is that how you'd explain your situation when you moved?
Yeah, so I went straight into, not part-time, I went straight into full-time to not having a job, but have a consulting opportunity to do a couple of days a week. So it's officially not part-time, but then because of the legal obligations around registering a new startup idea and patent on all that stuff, so I actually had to not being part of any role. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just to your point, have a offshore software development team, which is some projects we already done along the way, and then transition into more consulting and tech development work while actively working on your product passport.
Okay. Yeah. So let's compare notes, because we've had similar journeys but in different areas.
Yeah, that was
moving away from full-time employment to a more passion aligned with skill set role. I think we've both done that. Yeah. So tell me, what was your mindset when you moved? So you obviously wanted to do this, but what concerns did you have, if any, or were you just full on, let's do this?
Yeah, very interesting question. The reason it's interesting is I talked to a lot of people about this same question.
Okay, yep.
I was loving what I was doing as an employee, full-time employee. It was a great company, great people, mm-hmm. and there was a lot of opportunity as well, to be really honest. Mm-hmm. But I left work because I never felt I'm stuck there or I'm having a difficult time. Mm-hmm. So I was not trying to escape a problem. Yeah. I was chasing a dream. Mm. So for me, it's always about, if you want to do something, it should be more along the way of chasing your passion. If you don't have something, maybe go find it first. But my reason was never being, I'm stuck somewhere, I need to get out of this world. I was perfectly enjoying what I was doing, but I still took a lot of uncertainty and the risk on board. And I said, no, because I love what I want to do in the future, I love circular economy, I really want to explore. Mm-hmm. Maybe the only reason is, if you're working somewhere, obviously there's as a business, I understand what needs to happen.
Yep.
Right, so you can't incorporate everything you want to do. So the innovation might take time because companies are built in a certain way. There's protocols to follow through and everything. So for me, that was probably the most interesting aspect to move into what I do now.
Yep.
Is the pace at which I want to learn and innovate, try, fail, and then start again.
Okay.
With a lot of uncertainty, which was okay with. So that was a bit of my path into what I'm doing now. And tell me about yourself. What was the reason where you transitioned? What was your reason behind it? What is the why?
Well, the why. Well, something happens, I think, about halfway through life, and you look at things a little bit differently. And I was certainly in that area. And I think over half life, you typically, just generally speaking, a little bit more financially stable.
Yeah.
You know what you're good at. You know yourself very, very well.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit more of, well, I want to give back. There's a little bit more of the legacy mindset. And I don't know, the joy of helping people succeed was it for me. So I'd seen the benefits of improving people's communications. I'd seen people come from a place where they thought they could never be good communicators, become exceptional communicators, and it changed their lives. And I knew very, very clearly that I wanted to be part of that and continue that beyond just mentoring and helping my friends to communicate better. So it was, my mindset was at the time, the ideal way to do this would be to go part-time. So very similar to you in some ways. I actually thought that was quite unlikely because of the role I was a sales consultant, and I just put myself in the owner of the business. I put myself in his shoes, and I thought the business would be better off if he just replaced me. Like when I come out and tell him this is what I'm going to do, and this is my 2-year plan, I think his best business option would be to just replace me. So, but nonetheless, we had the conversation, went in the boardroom, had the conversation, and you don't know until you ask, right? It's something that I've learned over the years. You sometimes you just have to ask, how can I get to here? Can you help me? And he was very, very happy to help me, and essentially just gave me everything that I'd asked for, which was 3 days a week at replacing my full-time role with a 3-day a week, and I do 2 days a week in my communications coaching business. So that was the dream, to do that, because I got the security of the 3 days a week, and there's not as much risk. So that was working, and I guess there were some surprises in that, like when I eventually made the move. So from February this year, I went 2 days a week. And one of the things that I found was 2 days a week, I thought it was a lot of time, and I found it wasn't a lot of time at all. And I've never been so busy in my life. And for me, it's like creating workshops, selling the workshops, and delivering the workshops, so communications workshops. And that's a lot to do in 2 days a week. And most of the sessions, like if I sell a workshop, that will probably be 10, even 12 sessions. So they go for a long time. A lot to fit in. So that's one of the challenges, and I'm sort of adjusting my model a little bit as I go. Another learning curve was working from home. So initially I was working from the study in my home, and that just wasn't working. So it was just too noisy, there were interruptions. And there's something about when you are home, even though everyone knows that you're working and doing your 9 to 5 job, because you're there's an expectation that it's like, oh, get the door because there's a courier there, or there's something that needs doing, or the bins need taking out or something. And there's an expectation that you will do that. And I understand why it's there, because you're just there, just like everyone else is there. But it's not like working in an office. So that was when I decided to come here to Waterman, have a co-working space and all the facilities here, and that was a really good move. So very much at home. I get so much more work done here.
No, that's excellent. Now you know why I've been so busy the last 2.5 years.
Because you're still working from home, right?
Yeah, I'm still working from home. I got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. although I sort of navigated the journey while my second one was born. That's exactly almost the same time I started moving into doing my own thing. My whole world has changed in two different dimensions, like a second kid and then and the business, I guess.
And I've seen you on a Teams call, and the daughters come in and they're all over you. And
It happens. They know my clients. They've spoke to my customers as well. So no, which is good. But again, it goes back to would I regret not doing this if I think about this in the next 5-10 years time? 100%.
You would regret.
Yeah, if I haven't done it. So I think that's probably one thing to be very mindful of. And it goes the same way too. Would I regret leaving a nice job? Probably yes, but what weighs more for you is probably not pursuing my passion. So all the things to consider, and it's not easy. It will take a long time, and it depends on individual circumstances, your finances, your security, and all the commitments you have. You might have a lot of different commitments in a lot of different areas, and it's you know that, and it's entirely up to you what do you want to do. And there is no fancy or romanticizing being busy or being uncertain, because that also looks differently for some people from outside in. And I don't want to romanticize the grind or anything. It is real, and it gets tough and it's uncertain, but you live with it because you signed up for it. Yeah.
Well, hopefully you like the grind, right? It's going to be hard work. But at the end of the day, you've got to like it. If you don't like the grind in your passion project, then it's probably not worth doing. Maybe it isn't your passion after all.
Yes.
So for people watching who are thinking, I would love to get out there and do my own thing, whatever that is, what's your advice on who should do that, and for what are good reasons to do that, and what are not good reasons to do that?
Firstly, if you have a passion, maybe that's a little bit easy to follow the path. And that's a good reason to.
Just passion, or should we have? I always go the three things: the passion, the skill set. Because you might be you're really passionate about football. But you can't play football, so no, don't be a footballer, right? So passion, skill set, and there's got to be a market for it as well, right? So, or what the world needs is another way to put it. But at the end of the day, you've got to sell your services, and there's got to be a market there for it.
So I guess maybe depending on what stage of your life you're in, like if you're in a very early stage, you got the passion. If you don't have the skill set, you can learn and you can buy that depending on your financial circumstances, I guess. But it's important to know what you want to do, and is that really something you want to do every day? There will be completely flat days, you'll be demotivated in certain parts of the week, but you still get up the next day morning with the same energy and then go get it. As long as you have that mindset, that's probably the most important thing for me. And try put yourself out in sort of uncomfortable situations even before as a trial, because every day is a bit of an uncomfortable situation when you move into this journey. So almost imagining yourself, how do I feel every single day with that uncertainty and being uncomfortable, pushed out of my comfort zone. So as an example, if you're someone who doesn't like to network, go to a networking event a few times a week or a few times a month, and then just test it. How do you feel? Is that something you'd love to do? And I've seen a lot of people who came with some feedback to me and is like, this is tough. And I said, if that's why you believe it's tough, then doing business will be really tough. And I see people, I actually enjoyed it. Maybe it's good then, because maybe that's what you're going to enjoy. So back to your question, I always say, find your passion. If you don't have your passion, first figure out a passion. Being stuck, or if the current work or whatever you're doing currently is hard, that can't be a reason to get out of what you're doing. It's almost escaping from your current reality without knowing what your future is going to be. So that's not a good reason. Good reason is make sure you have the passion, but also the skill set, but ensure financially you're all secure and everything, because life moves on. There's bills that come in every month. That's reality. So really analyze your circumstance before you take your next chance on whatever you want to pursue. So
I did a few sessions with a guy called Mark Hodgkinson, and it was amazing. So he specializes in people in the corporate world moving to their passion project, particularly in my field of public speaking and coaching and workshops and so forth. And he gave some amazing advice. In fact, the whole plan over 2 years. So there's a 2-year transition plan to go from your corporate job to full-time passion project. And in that plan is the skills that you'll need and the mindset also that you should develop at the various stages. There's 4 different stages.
Yeah.
And the idea is to completely replace your old income with your new income. So very financially focused, because at the end of the day, if you're not making money, that would be the most common reason why people go back to the corporate job, right?
Makes sense,
is that the business didn't make sense. You might like what you're doing, but it's not making any money.
Yeah.
And a very common one is that you are passionate about something, but you don't know how to sell it. So you're not a salesperson, right? So maybe in my business, amazing workshops, I really know public speaking, I know all the skills I can teach, but I don't know sales, right? So how are you going to sell those workshops? That's going to be a real struggle, and that could be the reason why it doesn't succeed. So there's skill gaps there that you will have to deliberately fill. But you may need some sales training. You may need to understand the basics of selling workshops. You know, so that's important. So a question for you, or actually an opinion that I've got, and I'd like you to tell me what you think about it. So we have like a couple of things when we're embarking on this, and that is, this was my mindset at the very start, is that if I don't do this when I'm 80, say, would I regret? And my answer was an overwhelmingly yes. Okay, so if I didn't take this chance, this risk, I could get old age, and I am sure that I would be thinking, oh, what if I'd done that? I could have made a difference. And the other thing I was thinking is, well, if it doesn't work out, what is the worst thing that can happen? You know, and I looked at that and it was like, well, I think I'm pretty employable, and I think I would just go back, if not to the same job, to another position. And so the risk isn't that great. I'm not paying off a house or got financial debts, anything like that. So the risk is quite small, and I would have regrets if I didn't do this. So the obvious answer is to do it and give it everything that I've got, and make it succeed. But what do you think of that? Did you have similar thought patterns, or what's?
I think it's definitely a big word, the word risk. And especially with what's happening in the last 5, maybe 10 years, there's a lot of uncertainty with everything we do these days anyway, regardless you're working somewhere, redundancies, businesses going bust, and there's a lot's happening regardless. So I feel the word risk is probably a bit more of a bubble in our own mindset on how we think about it. Okay. Again, as long as...
Okay, can I pause you there? So somebody's watching this and they've got a big house mortgage, they're paying off their house, they're in a job they don't like, and they want to do their own thing. They want to be a personal trainer, let's say.
Okay.
Well, is there a risk? Do you think they should quit their job and go and do personal training?
Firstly, they need to do a bit of a financial modeling. That's the first thing they have to do, because based on everything you said. Again, my finances has always been, if I can afford $100, I always finance my forecast expenses around $40. I'm not going to go $120 as an expense. I've seen people doing that as well. Like they can afford, I don't know, a base $20,000 car, but they over forecast their expenses, and it's like, I can afford $80,000 car, and now there is a big debt. They can't actually fulfill that. So in that instance, what you said, yes, that's all real. And if they really love personal training and everything, maybe a side gig is a very good option, not the way I did it. Just start off with a side gig, get some market evaluation, understand your finances, and if you already have a plan over the next 1 year or 12 months to 24 months, reduce your risk of financial dependency, cut down things like that. Because if your passion is much bigger than your short-term financial goals, redo your plans. And that's essentially what I did as well. Like I had a lot of plans and all that stuff, but again, when I take a step back and I realized those short-term plans are probably a lot smaller compared to my long-term passion. And most importantly, my wife Mayuri understands what I'm trying to do as well. Okay. We're really on the same page. Good one. Yes. Otherwise, and then because you said family, mortgage and everything, and I said, it's important you talk every day. I talk to my wife every day. We communicate a lot, over communicate than under communicating, and make sure, because end of the day, everything I do, most of it, it's being happy, and then obviously make sure my family is happy around me. If I don't have it, why would I do all this?
Yep.
So financially, but also personally as well, it's important to assess the risks and your interest of your family and everything. So make sure you're actually on the same journey together.
Yep.
And then again, you have a bit of a time frame. I've set myself 5-year time in terms of how this is all going to work out. I'm not going to drag everyone with me for an extended period of time without having
so you get a 5-year plan.
And it's all around the 5-year mark, and it's like we fucking.
Because it would be so hard. Can you imagine if you didn't have that conversation with Mayuri, and she was dead against it, and you said, "Well, I'm doing it anyway. You know, you're trying to restrict me, and you don't want me to be happy. You know, all the usual arguments. You know, and." It would be so hard. It would just double the resistance of you being successful.
It will never work. And the only reason I'm able to do what I'm able to do is Mayuri completely has my back. So and vice versa. And anytime she has any ideas on whatever she wants to do, I always have her back, because end of the day, we've got to travel together as a family. Otherwise, as you know, the risk is probably a lot bigger than what we think. So back to your question, yes. You got a passion, you got a mortgage, and you got a lot of financial commitment. I will reassess the financial commitment. I'll reduce the financial burden to expense out less than 30% as small as possible. So the risk is a lot lower. But in the meantime, I'll build my personal training business on the side over the next 2 years and sort of come to an agreement. Okay, this is the financial look like, and I've actually figured out 2 years, the market validation, and there is a market. Maybe that's a point in time you transition. And then I think subconsciously, me being part of SCLAA and all the networking without actually having a plan into moving into this, all those relations, all those network really helped. And these are the things you don't plan for, but I guess I never had any wrong intentions or any other thoughts putting all these efforts into what I did in the last 7 years. And things will work for you when you have the right intention, the right heart in place. You're placing the right heart, it will work eventually. So,
I'm a big believer in that. It's quite intangible, and you won't find it in the books, but if you feel it in here that it's going to work, you will find a way. That burning desire, that Napoleon Hill classic. If you've got a burning desire for it, you will make it work. You'll find ways. And I can guarantee you, anyone who starts out on their own, in their own business with their passion project, they'll be tweaking along the way. There'll be things that you think are going to happen that didn't happen. You're going to think your wonderful idea, that everyone is going to think you've got this wonderful idea. And you'll probably find that a lot of people don't. And you might have to move a little bit to get a product that the market actually wants and needs and will pay good money for it. I know that's been the case for me, and it's a bit of a learning process, but be willing to adjust.
And what is a typical work day look like for you now, given you sort of transition into this?
Well, I'm starting to get a little bit of a rhythm, which I think at the start I didn't have. It was a bit all over the place, but it's a bit of a rhythm. So there's Tuesdays and Thursdays are my coaching days. So Tuesday morning, I typically have a mentoring session. And Tuesday afternoon, I prepare for a workshop. Thursday morning, I deliver a workshop, and then Thursday afternoon, I look after the sales aspect of the business. So I've been in sales, so I understand all that quite well. So I've got a sales funnel. I've got leads coming in and moving them through the funnel. And so that's working quite well. Regular follow-ups. Working out, talking to customers to find out what they need is very important, and that's because communications is a very big area. And while I think learning public speaking is amazing, what's coming from the market is that's good, but also could we have a couple of sessions on resolving conflict, of giving and receiving feedback in evaluations, being assertive. My sales team isn't assertive enough. They're not. they're not confident enough to ask for the sale.
Yep.
Can we do a session on that? So I'm getting these different modules added to the core sessions of communication.
Yep. Almost driven by market demand. That's even better.
Yes, well, if you can do that, and that you get that by talking to people.
Yeah. And probably the big decision you made is to firstly to execute your passion, and all these discussions are flowing through.
Yeah,
so that's been the big step actually to do it. Just do it. So
100%.
Yeah.
All right. So Rakesh, what advice would you give somebody who's looking at this and they're thinking, oh wow, I'd like to do my passion project. What advice would you give them?
Talk to me. More than happy to have a chat. But what I really emphasize on, make sure you analyze your personal circumstances and understand where your financial risks are, your family risks, and your personal risks as well. And if that passion really, really drives you, only then commit to it. And again, test the waters. And if you've got again, depending on where you work and how it works for you, there's definitely an opportunity. Work life is a lot more flexible, especially after COVID, in terms of how you want to execute. And then relationships matter. So if you've got some good relation with your existing company or your peers or something, everybody's ready to help you. So I would say start your journey small, but if you've got an opportunity to go all in, do that, because if that's what's driving you, do that. But very important, do not leave or don't do your own thing because you feel stuck in your current role or you don't like something about it. That can't be a reason. So I'll really emphasize on that point. It's more around following your passion and finding what you want to do in life long term and what motivates you and what gets you up every single day. So if that's what it is, that's probably the biggest recommendation. And there is a lot of things you got to consider. And something I will talk about risk as well. This is something I've heard from a chief economist, but also a successful investor who's done a lot of amazing, I can't get his name right now, and it actually makes completely sense, very much sense. He said, when you enjoy the process, it may not be a risk for you at that time, at that point of life. People might look at it, it's a very big risk, but personally you'll never feel it because you actually enjoy the process and you have a lot of conviction that it will work.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yep.
So I think when I look back myself and things I've done, reviewing what happened, it feels risky now when I think about it, but at that time of life and at that moment, it didn't feel it because I was so much into my passion or so much into what I wanted to do that didn't look like a risk. And that's a level of conviction you need to move forward. And if you're thinking a lot about risk and a lot of uncertainty, maybe that's not a good time, because time is always important too. Timing is always important. So assess what's happening around you and make sure you sort of have the right ecosystem to move forward. So,
my advice would be to think carefully about what is the worst thing that could happen, and make sure you're comfortable with that. That you've got a plan.
Very good point.
I think that's an important question.
Yeah.
And I think that you need to love the grind, which is basically what you were saying as well. So sometimes people fall in love with an idea and think something is some work is going to be a certain way, but they don't actually like the grind, the every day to day. Be very clear on what you're going to be doing day to day. You know, you may be very passionate about your passion project, but are you comfortable with selling that? Are you comfortable having a sales role for maybe a quarter of the time of your working day, being in a sales role and selling that skill? You may not like that. You may completely dislike the sales process, but that is required to sell your services, right? So be very clear on that. And if you can dip your toes in, like I would highly recommend going part-time or having some other income at the very early stages of your passion project. I would be very, very nervous quitting a full-time job and diving straight into a passion project. You would have to be so sure that is going to work, and in most cases you wouldn't be that sure. So going part-time is the ideal. Maybe having another part-time job. So if you have to give up your full-time job, get another part-time job and have your passion project as your second part-time job. That'd be my tips.
Yep, and make sure have a timeline on how long you want to continue this, because if you can't measure, you can't manage it. So it's important you have a bit of a timeline measure in terms of how you want to see yourself in 3-5 years. Usually 5 years is a good time frame. I think, at least. Everything in my life sort of worked in 5-year chunks.
Does it? Okay.
Yeah. So I think because we always overestimate what we can achieve in 1 year and underestimate what can happen in 5 years' time.
It depends on what your circumstances are. So you have multiple income, right? So you can stretch it out over 5 years. If I was like giving up a corporate role and moving into my own with the view to have that replace my income completely, I'd be looking at like a 2-year time frame.
Yeah, that's good too.
Yeah, because you're going to have to move a lot more quickly if that is your sole income, right? I don't think most people could wait 5 years. I know your situation's different.
Yeah, different. Yeah.
But I'd be looking at 2 years as I need to, within 2 years, completely replace my corporate income with my passion project. And work towards that.
And then the relationship's very important. Have a very good network around you, and then be very committed and loyal to whatever you want to do. So
yeah, and it's fun, isn't it? It's just like it's the dream. Doing what you want to do, doing what you're good at, doing what where your passions are. It's an amazing feeling. Like and if you're doing the right thing, if you're doing what you're created to do, it's so fulfilling.
Totally, absolutely agree with that.
Through the roof.
So
good chatting, Rakesh.
Likewise, always.
All right, till next time.
Yes.
Thanks, man.